Assalamualaikum. If your wife is talking about divorce, the worst thing you can do right now is act like a man who is terrified of losing her. Because the more desperate you become, the less respect remains. The more you chase, explain, defend, beg, and push for certainty, the more you destroy your own dignity. And many men do not realize this until the marriage is already dead. Download the Muslim Man Rebuild Playbook in the description. It is my 30-minute comeback protocol for Muslim men whose minds are scattered, emotions are unstable, and Dean is sleeping during marital collapse. It helps you reset fast when your home feels like it is falling apart. Subscribe if you are rebuilding with discipline, not drama. Let me say something most men do not want to hear. When divorce is near, love is usually not the first thing collapsing. Your self-control is. And once a man loses that, he starts doing humiliating things in the name of saving the marriage. He begs. He over-explains. He rage texts. He stalks. He keeps asking the same question. He just wants closure. He wants certainty. He wants reassurance from the very person he no longer feels safe with. That is not leadership. That is panic wearing a husband's face. And this is where many men lose themselves. Not in the divorce papers. Before that, in the panic. When the word divorce enters the room, a man's mind does not stay calm. Your thoughts start running. Your home, your money, your children, your future, your identity, your dignity, your work, your reputation, your place in the family. The more your mind runs, the more dangerous you become to your own life. If divorce feels near, your first responsibility is not to repair the relationship. It is to stop yourself from collapsing. Because when a man senses he is losing his marriage, he is not only dealing with heartbreak, he is dealing with identity shock. He is trying to hold together too many roles at once. Husband, father, provider, protector, employee, leader. And inside, he is breaking. I know this because I lived it. When the bomb was dropped, I went into a blur. Part of me was shocked. Part of me already knew it was coming. I could not find my footing. My mind was foggy. I was not sleeping properly. I wanted certainty, validation, some emotional ground under my feet. And the harder I reached for certainty, the worse I got. That is the trap. A man thinks he is fighting for the marriage, but really, he is leaking panic all over the place, and panic never leads. That is why, if you are serious about not making this worse, you need to stabilize your body first. Sleep, train, eat properly, walk without stimulation. Get off your phone when your emotions are high. Do not send messages from a flooded state. Do not try to have deep conversations when your nervous system is already burning. Because a dysregulated man cannot lead anything. He can only react. And reacting men always say things they regret later. If you cannot control your state, do not talk about saving the marriage. And once a man loses his center, something predictable happens. He starts chasing certainty. He wants answers, reassurance, one conversation that will finally calm the storm in his head. So he asks again and again and again. Do you still love me? Are you serious? Is there someone else? What do you want from me? Can we fix this? Why are you doing this? Just tell me the truth. But what he really wants is not truth. He wants relief. And when she does not give that relief, he spirals deeper. Now, he wants to defend every accusation, correct every detail, control every conversation, win every point, force emotional clarity from a woman whose heart is already pulling away. That is weakness. Not because asking question is weak, but because needing her answers in order to stay stable is weak. That is the difference. A strong man can ask. A weak man depends on the answer to survive the night. And once she feels that dependence, the dynamic gets uglier. Because now she is no longer speaking to a grounded man. She is speaking to a man who is trying to regulate himself through her responses. That is too much pressure, and that pressure makes you look smaller. I did this too. I wanted certainty. I wanted peace. I wanted the inside storm to stop. But when I could not get the certainty I wanted, I got more emotional, more triggered, more unstable. And when the response came back cold, defensive, or testing, everything got worse. So understand this. If she is venting, listen. Not because you are weak, because not every emotional moment requires your defense, your correction, or your counterattack. Sometimes she is not asking for your explanation. Sometimes she is revealing the emotional temperature of the marriage. You do not need to agree with every claim. You do not need to tolerate abuse. And let me be clear. Not every marriage should be salvaged. If there is abuse, manipulation, repeated betrayal, or destruction of trust, do not romanticize staying just because your ego cannot accept the ending. Islam does not ask you to worship dysfunction. But if there is still a small window left, your desperation will usually shut it faster than your mistakes did. The man who cannot sit with uncertainty will beg for peace from the one who cannot give it. And this is where the real test begins. Because divorce does something very uncomfortable to a man. It reveals what he truly fears losing. Some men say they fear losing their wife, but when you watch closely, what they really fear is losing the identity built around the marriage. The husband, the father, the provider, the family man, the one who thought this structure would last. And when that identity gets threatened, men do foolish things. They break their routine. They lose sleep. They poison their body. They neglect prayer. They lose adab. They speak without restraint. They chase control because they cannot tolerate surrender. This is where Islam brings clarity. Because if you fear losing her more than you fear Allah, you will lose your center. This season demands sabr, not soft sabr, not passive sabr. It's disciplined sabr, the kind that holds your tongue, the kind that lowers your voice, the kind that walks away before saying something filthy, the kind that takes your pain to Allah instead of dumping it into every conversation. At this point, many men try to control the outcome. They think if they say the right thing, behave the right way, push hard enough, chase long enough, they can bring the heart back. But there is a reality every Muslim man must remember. Allah holds the hearts, not you. Your responsibility is not controlling another human being. Your responsibility is controlling yourself before Allah. That means you do your part fully. You train, you walk, you eat properly, you keep your routine, you talk to one trusted man, you recite Quran, you return to Allah, you stop performing emotional chaos, and you stop worshipping the outcome. One of the few things I did right in that dark season was I kept training. Gym did not solve my marriage, but it gave me my chaos somewhere to go. And I recited Surah Yasin more often, not because I was fully composed. I was not, but some part of me still knew that if I did not anchor myself, I was going to sink. That is the lesson. If Allah writes, prepare, you will not come through your desperation. If Allah writes separation, your begging will not stop it. So stand properly inside the test. That is your job. Character, restraint, adab, submission, self-mastery. You are not responsible for controlling her heart. You are responsible for governing yourself before Allah. So if divorce is near, stop asking the wrong question. Stop asking, how do I make her stay? Ask a better question. How do I make sure this test does not reduce me as a man? Because one path makes you smaller. You beg, you chase, you overtalk, you stalk, you lose sleep, you lose focus, you lose adab, you lose yourself before you ever lose the marriage. The other path is harder, but cleaner. You stabilize, you train, you walk, you eat like a man who still has responsibilities. You hold your tongue. You stop trying to squeeze certainty out of a collapsing situation. You return to Allah. You become governable again. Maybe the marriage survives. Maybe it does not. But at least you do not come out of this ashamed of how you carried yourself. And if you have children, this matters even more. Because your child may one day forget the details of the conflict, but they will remember the kind of man pressure turned you into. A loose man, a bitter man, a panicked man, or a man who was hurt but still governed it. Download the Muslim Man Rebuild Playbook in the description. It is for the Muslim man whose life feels unstable, whose mind is spiraling, and who needs a reset before he destroys himself. And subscribe if you're rebuilding with discipline, not drama. Because when divorce is near, the first thing you save is not the marriage. It is your command over yourself.